Good afternoon from Cancun. My name is Sanjay Vashist, and we have Mr. K. Srinivas from Vasudha Foundation here, and well, lovingly known as Srini. So Srini, welcome. Welcome
Thank
to
you, Sanjay.
HBF stall,
Thank
and good to see you again. We basically wanted to know your views on few of the issues that we have identified, and we thought you are one of the experts on renewable energy from India. It will be good to get your opinion on that. We are in Cancun and COP16 is there, and we would like to know your opinion on what role the renewable energy discussions play in Cancun as of now.
Very unfortunately, renewable energy is not going to be a priority discussion at the Cancun COP16, primarily because I don't see much discussion happening on the low carbon plans, or for instance developing country actions, or in terms of industrialized country strong mitigation targets. If, for example, Cancun had, or in COP16, the discussions or the negotiations had reached the level where countries or developing countries were to put forth their low carbon action plans, then renewable energies or discussions around renewable energy would have had a greater scope, which I don't see happening. But hopefully it could happen in South Africa, depending on the kind of progress that we make in climate negotiations here.
So, well, that's interesting to know. So there is a future as long as discussions go in that direction. But then the question comes back of India being an emerging economy. What is the importance of India being an emerging economy, and what role it can play in renewable energy in the future, if you perceive things go in the desired direction?
See, as far as renewable energy is concerned for India, it has a very, very bright future because there's very huge potentials. Take the case of solar, for instance, with almost 300 plus days of sunlight and very strong isolation. Solar can play a very major role in India, particularly given the situation that close to about 45% of Indian households don't have electricity. And most of these households are in the rural areas, and rural areas, the main problem is energy access because of poor infrastructure or electricity transmission lines. So a standalone or a decentralized renewable energy system, particularly solar, would play a very, very great role, not only to address energy access, but also to ensure that India continues to be on the development pathway. One of the main drivers for growth for an emerging economy like India and China and a lot of these countries is energy. Energy is a driver for growth and development. And energy access is a key issue. Now, other than solar, if you look at wind, close to about 100,000 megawatts of wind and energy potential India has. Biomass, it's got huge potentials. There are certain potentials which has not been tapped at all, like for example, the geothermal and other such sources of renewable energy. So the main thing for me is that I personally believe that in the next 20-30 years, India could reduce its share of coal in the energy mix from the current level of 67% to as much as 30 to 40%. Which means that renewable energy can go up from the current level of 10% to as much as 30%. There is a potential, and I think India has to do it, particularly given the fact that India, one of the main targets for India is electricity for all and energy for all by 2012.
Yeah.
So if you go by that, I think renewable energy will have to play a major role. It's not the question of can, it is a question of will have to.
So, I agree with you, and I think one of the, when we look at India as an emerging market, and we talk about technology transfer, we talk about rich or entrepreneurs in India. But how to ensure renewable energy can be accessed by vulnerable and poor in India?
See, there are two dimensions to it. One is that right now renewable energy is a very expensive, or at least solar is the main barrier for large-scale solar deployment is the cost, is the price barrier. Now, given the fact that, again, if you look at close to what, 60, 50, 55% of Indian population live below the international poverty line. So the question of affordability is a major issue. But what people tend to forget, or what we generally tend to overlook, is that if you look at small, decentralized renewable energy solutions in villages, it works out cheaper to deploy it rather than centralized conventional grid power, because the transmission lines are going to be very, very expensive. It's going to be costly. The other thing is that energy is not electricity. I think we need to have a very clear definition of what energy access is. It's not electricity. It's all about providing the needs of people of the villages, like for instance, sanitation, pipe drinking water, water for irrigation. It's about electricity or energy for not just lighting but also for heating purposes, cooking and so on. And more importantly, it will have to also play a major role in livelihood enhancements. Now, even if you look at electrified villages in India, the so-called electrified villages in India, you don't get power supply for more than 2 to 4 hours, maybe 5 hours, and at 1 o'clock in the morning or 2 o'clock in the morning, and you don't get that kind of the kind of quality of supply. So they are not able to use that electricity from the grid for anything beyond lighting purposes. So what is crucial is that if you have a decentralized renewable energy mini grid model which takes care of lighting and heating requirements, you have pumping water or water pumping systems which can take care of irrigation and also ensure that there is a pipe drinking water. And then sanitation. As we all know, sanitation is a major issue in almost all households in India. So it takes care of not just economic development, it takes care of social development, and then it ensures that there is a sustainable growth.
Okay, well, that's really very important for our audiences. I'm sure they will feel benefited. And thanks for coming, Srini.
Thank you.
And keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Thank you.